Circumstance does not dictate my reality. Thriving communities come together to shape their future. If you can clearly set out vision and purpose, you can really achieve anything.
Welcome to It Is Good, hosted by Mike McLean, where we pause to find gratitude in everyday moments and celebrate the beauty in life. From sunrises to heartfelt conversations, let's shift focus to what is truly good.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of It Is Good, the show with good questions and even greater purpose. Today, we're joined by someone who exemplifies servant leadership in action, Mayor Tenessa Audette of Redding, California. A dedicated public servant, a mother of three, and passionate advocate for constitutional values, Tenessa brings both experience and heart to her role. With a background in political consulting and a commitment to transparent governance, she works tirelessly to empower her community. Whether addressing fiscal challenges at City Hall or engaging with residents on pressing issues, Tenessa approaches her work with authenticity and a deep sense of purpose. Her journey is a testament to the power of leading with conviction and humility. Tenessa, it's an honor to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, without further ado, let's jump straight in the deep end. As you said, buckle up for some hard-hitting questions. They're good questions. They're not necessarily hard-hitting, but
Right.
you have described yourself as a solutionary, which I love that term. Someone who not only identifies problems, but actively seeks solutions. Go figure, right? What experiences have shaped this approach, and how do you maintain it in the face of political and social challenges?
I would say being a solutionary comes from a lot of problems. Having faced just a lot of obstacles. So briefly, I grew up, my parents were evangelists. We grew up like on a bus traveling the United States, which had like 14 members in it. And when you have four very small children, which my mom had by the time she was, I want to say maybe 24, she had four kids, and she's on a bus with a bunch of other adults in a band preaching the gospel. So, like, their hearts are sold out for the Lord, but practically, that's we're just a bunch of humans, coming together to do something extraordinary, but, it doesn't always look extraordinary on the bus. And so, you grow up with a lot of personalities. My mom's from 10, my dad's from 6, and then my grandparents come from 8 and 5. And so I grew up with my great aunts and uncles, my aunts and uncles, so a lot of bosses. And being an Italian and one of the only girls, there's just very few girls in the family of the cousins. You just learn to serve, and you learn to make sure that you're valuable and that you are always adding something and you're serving people and loving on people. So my faith, my family, the culture we grew up in sort of set me up that wherever I was going to be, I was going to add value and I was going to serve. And then, things don't always go great. My parents got divorced when I was about 15. So I left home at 17 because I knew I wanted to go to college. I wanted to be a professional. I wanted to get out there and do bigger things. And so I left home at 17 and put myself through college without a car, without anything. And so I laugh sometimes, with the obstacles of politics. And I'm like, if you haven't like lived on your own at 17, moved, got on a train and just go sit and sleep in somebody's living room so that you could, figure out enough to get to the next step and the next step, then politics is nothing. Plus I had teenage daughters. So, I think if you can conquer those things, you can pretty much do anything. So, that I get the opportunity to be in government and lead in a way that sort of is pulling together lots of different things. I think it makes solutions a lot more possible when you don't have to be the one that's the answer to everything.
You said something that I find really, really interesting. It's not always extraordinary on the bus. I
Yeah.
think that's a great parallel into, especially you, ma'am, as you're doing tremendous, amazing things. And I think a lot of people, they have these high-end goals and desires for life, but don't really realize the road to get there isn't always glamorous. You might have a glamorous, extraordinary goal, but the process to get there can be a little bit messy. Dare I say, have some smells that might occur on the bus. What nuggets would you share with our audience just from that experience and kind of the journey traveling the country on the bus?
Yeah, I think I think one of my superpowers is that my faith, my trust, my vision is not contingent upon circumstance. It really the process is your learning ground. And if you want the degree, you gotta go to class. You know what I mean? And it's like, we get these degrees, we get our master and it's so fantastic, but the learning and the training ground is really in going to class and listening and synthesizing and understanding. You want souls to be saved and you're on the bus to spread the good news of Christ, but you yourself are not always, you're not always in a good mood. So it's like the Lord's in a good mood. We are not, and it's like you're out there like, preaching positive when it's really difficult and circumstances. If you need circumstances to be great or to work out in order to continue towards your goal, you're never going to get there. So whether you fail a class and you have to take it again, whatever it is, like I just learned really early on, my success was going to be driven on my perseverance to just not stay down if I fail, because failure was inevitable. But getting up again and going was going to be the mark of, it's the mark of a lot of lesser people. So if they can get up, I can get up. And yeah, so circumstance does not dictate my reality. My faith, my vision, my belief, that's what I'm always working on because that's what gets me up and keeps going.
Some powerful words. I agree with you. The majority of the people, they don't love the smells on the bus, so they get off. But if that bus is heading to the extraordinary, you hang in there. You do the hard things. You keep going. That's amazing. So you graciously hosted myself and my business partner Louis Galucci at the Reading Employer Summit, which thank you so much, by the way. That was, from our perspective, such a wonderful event with forward-thinking employers and people that really want to see a change for the better. I'd love to just hear your thoughts, maybe some takeaways, some nuggets that you had from that event, and where you could see most favored nation going for the entirety of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, Reading is a really unique place. It's small enough that people really value their neighbor, but it's big enough that sometimes you can do big things. If you have a town of 10,000, there's sort of a limit. Even if everybody came together, you can only do so much. Well, in a town of almost 100,000, you would think that people aren't super close, but they really are. There's like 1 degree of separation from everybody. And that means, well, that could be good or bad, but, it does mean that when there's, a vision and a purpose, really extraordinary things can happen. And I felt like we've talked about a problem of healthcare. I know that Reading, whether it's political leaders or it's business leaders or just the people that actually migrate here, are all looking to have a healthier lifestyle. And you have the tremendous amount of natural beauty that's everywhere, and then you just have this sort of natural
Yeah,
animation, right, from the people there that are sort of like, "I wanna enjoy the important things, and what's around me, whether it's my family, it's nature, it's my business, it's the community I've developed." We really want to keep those things around us and value them, and health is a big aspect of that, and it's a place where we have deficiencies, and so to have an opportunity to sort of overcome some of your issues, but then also with that, let's just say for cost savings, because really that's what we're all looking for. I mean, with the cost
sure.
savings, with a better plan, with a better solution, it actually empowers us with what do you do with that savings? Do you want to solve that problem as a community or do you want the government to fix it? Which Cliff notes, they don't. Government does not fix things. I'm in government to restrain government. You know what I mean? As the watchdog for the people I represent, it's like, no, no, that's not our job. Like, please don't do that, government. And so this really is monumental because it brings people together. It creates a clear vision, and it actually gives some resources to the purposes for which we are saying as a community that we want. The only thing will be like, will you just take the risk to do it? Will you try? Really, that's really what it comes down to is who wants to put their who wants to take a resource that they are otherwise giving into something else and use it towards the very purposes and solutions that they say that they want without government.
Yeah. And, it's such a beautiful thing to launch from Redding, and I will echo that for any of our guests that have not been to Redding, California. Not only is it beautiful with the mountains and the river, I think the thing that stood out to me, the first thing we did when we got into town is we went to Costco. I've never made so much eye contact and said hello to so many people per capita as I
Yeah.
did in that Costco. I mean, it was wonderful. Just it was heartwarming to see such an inviting community. You go to the East Coast and it's like or LA where you're from, you don't get that. It's quick hits like, okay, where are you from? What do you do? Okay, awesome. Thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah.
If you even get have a good day, you're probably not going to get that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, just a beautiful place to kind of birth this movement. I would love if you'd be willing just to get a quick insight into as you're handing the baton, because we're launching with the state of Colorado to supplement some of
Okay.
their legislation and working with some of the leaders here in state governance as well as some potentially national leaders as well. What would you say to them as an encouragement to take the baton that Reading has started and kind of continue on this movement for the United States?
Yeah, I think thriving communities come together to shape their future. And whether that's around an idea or an opportunity, whatever it is, if you can clearly set out vision and purpose, you can really achieve anything. Because without vision, the people perish. That's an internal reality as a person. That is a family value. That is a community value. And when you marry this opportunity with vision and purpose, I mean, really, there's really nothing stopping you other than you. And so I would encourage any city, any any town, anybody that has a collection of people going after the same things, take this seriously. Come together. Take back hold of the things that we all feel like life has gotten out of control since COVID. We feel like we've sort of lost our grip on what we think is true. But those closest to us, those in our community, those that we are affecting and that affect us, opportunities like this to come together to take back control over what's most important to you, which is your health. I think that's something that nobody should pass up. It's worth trying. And I think it'll be worth it in the long run. And I think that this will be the testimony of thriving cities for the future.
Well, you have certainly set the standard for that. So, for all those that see this message or this podcast, it's time for you to take the baton. So, thank you for setting that standard, ma'am. And speaking of which, the standard of servant leadership is a term that is sometimes misunderstood and, dare I say, overused in such a crazy capacity. In your role as mayor of Reading, how would you say that you embody this leadership style, and what does it look like in practice when making tough decisions for the city that inevitably some people are just going to disagree with you?
Yeah. I would say the best way that I can describe how I view servant leadership is that being an elected official requires so much of your time, your energy, your expertise, your knowledge, your willingness to learn. I mean, it literally takes every part of you, but it will never be about you. And if you can make sure that it's never about you, not be offended, not take it personal, not make personal attacks, don't accuse people, then I think you can really achieve more. I think the hard part and why most people probably don't choose to do that is because there's no reward. Like there's no quick reward. You don't win an argument or get a vote and that's, that's it. Like a lot of times things that are built in stages, they take time. And, if you've ever built anything in California, it costs you more to plan than it does to build. But the throne, God's throne is built on righteousness and justice. I think it's Psalms 89:14. Um, that's what it's built on. And what that means is that, you need justice, you need truth, but you also need the righteousness that then builds from that. And in the absence of righteousness, people settle for justice. We have all these movements around justice and, oh, we want it to be fair. We want to make it right. The problem is that it dies because it builds nothing. It does not go to that second phase of righteousness. And so for me, it's like my job is to bring justice. It's to bring boundaries. It's to bring truth. It's to even physically bring infrastructure. It's what government does very, very well. But the growing part, that's the righteous part. That's much more difficult. It takes coordination. It takes sacrifice. It takes less of you and more of the people. The people need to be the hero of the story. And so I don't want to settle for justice. I want to build something. And I want to build something with people that know how to have good foundations and then go from there.
It's possible that you just said the most profound thing on 12 episodes of this podcast. And we've had some incredible wise guests. That is going to be something that I ruminate on for a while. That was profound. When righteousness is not present, people fall back to justice. I'm paraphrasing. Go back
But
to
they
what?
settle. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, look at
Wow.
Black Lives Matter. I mean, this is a movement of value. And I think pick any group, right? Pick any group that just feels devalued. And it's like, okay, so because this is a world of noise right now. So how do you zero in? How do you focus in and what do you focus on and when do you focus on it? There's no lack. There's no lack of information. It's just that what's going to be the most important? What are we going to prioritize? And you have something like that where it's rooted in justice, but it lacked the ability to then build. And then it goes into they have corruption and it just kind of dilutes the good part of that. And it becomes this other thing that now you need justice from. And it's like, what a shame. Because really at the root of humanity is I want to be seen, I want to belong, I want to be a part of something. I want stability to build, right? Like don't build your house on the sand. Well, it assumes you're going to have a house. It assumes you have something that people that can inhabit, that can bring people in, that can be a safe. It's all the things, that are embodied in this idea of home. And since we are living temples of the Lord, like this is all interconnected. And I think as a government official, when you put on this mantle of government, it's heightened this awareness of you need to bring justice because that is what leadership, rulership is looking for. You have to make it fair. And even the Great American Experiment was like, we will protect you. We will protect your business, your property. We will protect you so that you can in righteousness build. But we've just settled on settled on justice. And we just don't want to build anymore. And we wonder why money is spent and there's nothing to show for it. Because we're going to bring justice to the homeless. We're going to bring justice to women. We're going to bring justice to this community and that community. But are we going to build something? So these are the things that I ruminate on, and I don't have it all figured out, but
Do you think
it's
there's
definitely a guide.
do you think there's an innate craving from humanity to see, behold, and follow those that rest in righteousness? I mean, do you think that's something that's ingrained inside of us?
Yeah, that's why why we watch influencers all day. Because they give the perception that they've built something that's important and that affects their life. And it's a counterfeit, right? Because we're called to go into the world and shine a light to something to focus on. But we've settled for a counterfeit of somebody else telling you what you should look at and you should buy as though that purchase is going to satisfy your soul. But it doesn't, it's temporary. And, I'm influenced. I'm not saying I doom scroll all the time. It all happens. I'm not judging. It's not a place of judgment. It's just like, what an opportunity. The craving is there. Everybody wants to be led well. Everybody does. And looking at government to do that is going to end badly, because they don't have the mechanisms to build. They have the mechanisms for justice. And then leaders have the opportunity to draw in people to then go build something. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I mean, government can build something that's going to cost 4 times the amount. It's going to require all these extra things so that by the time you get into it, you can't even afford to maintain it.
Yeah.
Grant after grant after grant. I'm like, enough of the grants. How about we maintain something? We're government's building. Oh, this, and then nobody can inhabit and maintain.
Right.
It's just not market driven. It's not people driven. It's this like idea of what righteousness is, but it doesn't have the embodiment of it.
Hmm. Well, to your point, ma'am, I don't think the government can contrive that.
No,
It's
yeah,
going back to the creation of America, which I want to use that to pivot to the next question. But
yeah.
I think in some areas, and especially in recent history, last decade or so, government has tried to espouse that heart of America mentality and put it inside of us, perhaps even coming out of COVID. But the history of America, the growth, the freedom, the idea that each individual inherently possesses the ability to create has somehow been lost over time. In my perception, this is just Mike McLean speaking from the heart. I think that how we reclaim America, and this actually does parlay into the next question, that's pirate speak for anybody watching, that if we can get back to civil discourse, we get back to sparking ingenuity, we get back to creativity and sharing ideas and having open dialogue with those that disagree with us, and that friction creates a spark. And I think that spark is how we reclaim America as it was originally intended. And so that's my question for you, ma'am. So civil discourse has become so polarized in our climate, especially in the last several years. What do you believe are the root causes of this division? And how can leaders such as yourself or citizens work together to restore respectful and productive dialogue?
Oh my goodness. I tell people all the time that government, I'll just say from the government side, government is less filled with um, evil people or nefariousness and more so laziness and incompetence. I would say 9 times out of 10, people attack each other personally because they haven't done the due diligence and the work to understand something. They make it personal. They make it about everything other than the work, and they're just not doing the work because there really just isn't a very good criteria. I joke that, it's pastors and politicians that need no there's no requirement to become them. You just have to want to be one and convince other people that they should give you money to be that thing. I mean, it's kind of wild. Um, and I think unfortunately what's happened is the negative aspect of politics has driven sort of the practical, community leader out of it, and it's put in people that think they know everything or just need to have the perception that they know everything and be needed into those positions. And so you get those that are influencing them are stronger than their will and their conviction. And so when you have discourse, it's not an honest discourse. It's not their opinion. It isn't their position, even. I mean, we have people that I've watched committee meetings where the author of a bill is reading the bill, and then somebody asks a question and they don't have an answer because they didn't write it, they didn't read it, they don't know it. But somebody somewhere has told them this is what they have to do, and they think that their keeping their job depends on that. And so it's really difficult. I sit on in a city council, and oftentimes someone is reading their opinion. And I'm like, if you haven't done enough work to speak to your opinion, you're being influenced by somebody else, and the public should know who that is because they didn't elect your friends. They didn't elect, your donors. They elected you. So just have an answer. I mean, I go back to like First Peter. It's like you need to have an answer for the faith that you profess. Well, I think the same as in politics, you better have an answer for the position that you take. And if you don't understand it, then just say, I don't understand exactly the implications of what I'm doing. And so I'm going to vote yes, I'm going to vote no, or I want to delay. But that doesn't often happen because somebody that donated to you or whatever it has a stronger opinion. And so it's really hard to have a civil discourse when the people that are making the decisions are not the people discussing it. Like, I can't tell you how many times, depending on who's on the council, they'll be like, okay, we're done discussing it. Okay, we're going to vote because they've decided and they don't want to discuss it. And by law, that council cannot discuss it privately. They have to do it in public. And so anytime you have someone like ending discourse to get to it, you're like, you're not even trying to have discourse. Or they'll personally attack you. And it's like, huh? Like, This is an issue. It has nothing to do with me other than I need to put forth my position, what I believe in, the due diligence I've taken to understand it. And so who's having the civil discourse? The people not making decisions.
Wow.
Can you imagine going to the teller at the bank and being like, "Why are you charging this interest rate?" And they'll be like, "What interest rate? What do you mean?" You know what I mean? Like, they have no control over that. You're like, "Have a great dialogue with me." And they're just like, "I don't even like, I have no control over that. Like, do you have a deposit? Do you want to, do you need, like, what do you need?" I can only do this much. And so I do think we have lost that. Like, it used to be right on the floor of the House or on the floor of the Senate, and they're arguing and they're having discourse. It's like nobody watches that. It's political theater. Why? They were told what to say. They're reading what to say. And why? Because we have 1,000 bills every year. I mean, it's ridiculous. You have to change the structure to say, no, you get 5 bills. Five. You get five.
Sure.
Do it. You should prioritize. California has 400,000 regulations. It is double New York and 3 times the national average. We don't need
Actual
that
number?
many. That's an actual number. Over 400,000 regulations.
Wow.
They don't know what they are. I was just talking to somebody who's on a school board, and she's like asking for things, and they're telling her no. And like, policy, policy, policy. She goes, "Can I see this book of policies?" 1,100 policies for the school board. 1,100 for the 5-member school
Wow.
board about what they're allowed and not allowed to do. Who does that benefit?
Wow.
It
Wow.
isn't the
Wow.
parents, it isn't the students, and it isn't the school board. Here you have control, but we're going to policy you into asking these questions and doing this thing. Just rubber stamp it. And the pressure and the like, you get totally ostracized if you just won't go with the status quo. And it becomes personal. Like, I'm asking questions, and the response from other council members is, "Well, I trust them." And it's like, but you don't have any facts to back that up. So you better not just trust people in government. What? So, how do you have civil discourse when people have to know about 2,000 things? They don't know it. They haven't read the bill. You'll see it all the time on the news. People will say, like, "Well, according to Bill 8524, what, and they're like, "Which one is that?" Yes, because there's thousands. How do you even remember? So, if you want to really have good discourse, then the people that are making those decisions have to know what in the world is going on, which means it needs to be limited down to a certain set amount. It has to be structured in a way that they can consume it, that they can read the bills, that they have enough time to read the bills, that they can really thoroughly go over it, that it's, you know, we do this in real estate. We changed it to 1 page. Why? Because it's the biggest purchase of their life. And yet you're telling me that in the legislation, it should be 1,100 pages? Immediately, my, you know, big, big, beautiful bill, there's no such thing. That's an oxymoron. If it's big, it can't be beautiful. I'm sorry. I love what's happening right now. Every day feels like Christmas because we are attacking the status quo. But big is never beautiful when it comes to government, ever, ever. And if we don't really change the expectations of what we're asking for representatives to do, we're just going to keep getting what we've always gotten.
There is a memorandum, and I've now referenced this. This will be the second time I reference this on the podcast. Winston Churchill, in 1947, circulated a memorandum for his staff called Brevity, and basically mandates brevity for the entirety of the staff. It's still circulated in 2025 for all the service members and elected officials in the Pentagon. And there is something to be said about the ability and taking the time to be concise. But to your point, I think that's almost wielded to shadow and cloak some of the nuances that are trying to get through. And without sidetrailing, I'm sure we could talk 4 hours on this, but I do think it's a microcosm of society to where there's these sound bites that are a result of extremist views that get pushed because the sensationalism that's sparked by those news clips are exciting, and it gets the attention of people in our society. And then they go and they mouth those little sound bites to their friends. And I think that has also torn at the fabric of the ability to be, one, educated, but then two, meet someone with a moderate tone and try to seek understanding from their point of view. It's sensationalism, which is, in my opinion, in society, been some of the deterioration of civil discourse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's not even this is why debates are important. This is why they matter. Look at what happened when Biden debated. I mean, we're talking almost 4 years of two different sides saying he's perfectly fine. No, he's not fine. He's perfectly fine. No, he's not fine. Then you have a debate and someone has to get up there and respond without reading, without a teleprompter, and then the rubber meets the road. And it's like we just don't do that anymore. We just don't, we sit down and we read a piece of paper that somebody else has prepared for us and somebody vouches for you and that's it. And it's like, no, the decision makers have to get up and speak. Because I mean, yeah. It isn't going to happen if we keep doing what we've always done. That's the definition of insanity. And I think right now is that opportunity to go, okay, well, what else can we do? What are the other opportunities? And what I'm constantly doing is learning like, okay, how did this get screwed up? Okay, I need to teach the public how that happened because I won't be here forever. So I need to teach you. If you hear these words, your red flags need to go up and you need to ask more questions. And if you don't see these reports, you should be concerned you're not getting the full story. But in any type of discourse, I think to really be the righteous part of that, you have to go after the issue. If you attack the person, you've lost it. But knowing that the strategy of Cloward and Piven is say outrageous things because it begins to numb down the electorate to these ideas. I mean, when we first heard of the Green New Deal, it was cow farts are destroying the world and climate. You know what I mean? And we thought that was ridiculous. And now we absolutely regulate methane that comes out of, you know what I mean? Like as that's not part of just the natural cycle, Yeah. So there's a lot of things at play. Whether or not the people on the ground actually understand that, it just comes back to the humanity of you. And, if I want my husband to take out the trash, I don't attack him for, his character and whatever. It's like, no, I just create a routine. It's called a habit. We just got to create a habit. You don't have to make it a personal value statement. It's just like, okay, do we need a list? I'll do this if you do this. It's a negotiation. It's habit forming. It's like, live the life you want to live. So we have to remember that when it comes to our leaders and officials. If you want to influence them, you can. Threatening them isn't going to do it. Attacking them isn't going to do that. But offering your support and being that voice that says, you're representing me and here's my position and I'll stand behind you as you advocate for that, I think goes a lot further than attacking and accusing.
So speaking of attacks, you yourself have been the source of some personal attacks. So what I'd like to do here, if you're open to it, ma'am, is play a short clip. And I love this clip because it shows the authenticity. It shows your heart. We've talked about righteousness and truly living out the calling on your life. So you were the target of an attack and you're responding to that in this clip. And I want to share it with our audience just so they can kind of see a peek behind the curtain. And then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. Sound good?
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
so I just got home from work and I got the mail. Guess what? I got an attack ad. I know. I probably shouldn't be this excited, but as a total campaign political nerd, I think that an attack ad means that you're winning because they're coming after you. So I'm pretty excited. It is, the attack ad's not that exciting. It said I worked for a politician who raised something about a car tax, but West Chesbrough was my internship in college. So in 1999, when I was graduating from college, I had to do an internship in order to graduate. And so West Chesbrough is where they stuck me. And it was actually kind of cool. I got to be in a district office for 3 weeks and I wasn't thinking about my future and the mailers that they send out. And then also basically I'm accused of something about supporting child molesters because I didn't vote one year, but I'm pretty sure I did vote that year. So swing and a miss, but personally I'm pretty stoked about it.
These elections are pretty fun. And if you're getting attack ads, it means you're doing something right. And so I'm pretty pumped. I think we're ahead.
So what I love about this is the authenticity of your response. And knowing that in politics, this is kind of commonplace. And to your point, it means that you're probably doing something right. I'd be curious, just as leading with conviction, which clearly you do, you have seemingly such a deep core of who you are, leading with authenticity. It's inevitably going to come with personal costs. But you seem to be grounded and at peace. What practices or beliefs would you say that help you stay centered, kind of bringing you back to who you are at your core? And what advice would you offer to others striving to lead with authenticity amidst pretty challenging circumstances?
Yeah, there's like Bill Johnson says this often. He says, what gets you there is what keeps you there. And so if I'm going to get to a higher position by bashing my opponent who's also a Republican, like that was a Republican that did that to me. That was another, and by the way, funded by the legislator that I worked for 5 years and that ran their campaigns for. Like this was, this just wasn't just dirty politics. It was a loss, like just not having control. And we're all susceptible to that, even people we know and care about and have served. And so this was loaded, but I'm a nerd. I mean, like, I'm a total nerd. And it's fun. Like being someone who loves history, it's like, it's really fun to like be a part of history. Like, that's, I just think that's the coolest thing ever. So I don't, I don't want to be a person that tears down. I think it's really easy to tear down. I had incredible nuggets that I think had I gone negative would have absolutely bumped me up, because negative works. It just does. It always will bump you up a couple percentage points every time without fail. Like it just happens. If you create doubt, people don't want to make a bad decision. They'd rather make no decision than a bad decision. And so a lot of times Republicans basically just don't vote. And oftentimes with the left, they're just better educated, so they're gonna vote, they're gonna pick their person. But on the right, we just generally don't wanna do the wrong thing. So we won't vote,
Wow.
or we'll just pick the lesser of two evils. And so if there's a negative ad, it does work. I just don't wanna lead that way. And if I start that, there's no end to that, and then I invite that spirit on me. And I know this is true because it's even in my language and how I talk about it. And so, like, there was a couple opportunities and I spoke to somebody and I was like, "Have you seen this? Did you know that?" So I'm talking about it. And immediately somebody called with a rumor about me. And I was like, "No, that's not true." And then I'm like, "Oh, I can't even entertain, even if it's true." I mean, this is something written in my opponent's own hand, something that they wrote and said, and it's not aligned with our district. But if I open that door, then I'll be judged by that as well. And I will open myself to that. And I just don't want to lead that way. I can do what everybody else does. I can do because it does work. So I could do that, but I don't want to. And if I have to win being somebody else, then I have lost already. So that idea of like what gets you there is what keeps you there. I just don't want to have to be finding fault in everybody. It's really not hard to find fault. It's much harder. It's much harder to build. And she did something negative. So it's like justice would be you're getting it right back, or I'm going to expose your thing. And it's like, no, I don't, I, that is not the type of leader I want to be. It also meant you just didn't take money from the same types of people because you knew it had strings. Even if they didn't say that it has strings, it does have strings. So if it does not align with my value system, I can't do it. I just can't. Even if I appreciate them and whatever, it's like you want to be above reproach. And so I would say like that is paramount because called longevity. I'm not gonna be the person looking for dirt on everybody all the time. I don't wanna hire the people that are looking for dirt. I don't wanna I just don't wanna do that in the long run. That isn't what I'm there for, so I couldn't go down that road, and I was really the Lord had such a short leash on me on even talking about something because it immediately opened me to that same criticism, and it would happen
Wow.
like that, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay. Guard my heart, guard my tongue, just keep me on the path, like, keep me." Again, without vision, people perish. I'm a people. I have to have a vision of what I'm going for. I'm gonna fight, for number 1, to make California a part-time legislature. That was my number 1 because, like I said, that the Mark Twain quote, "If the legislature is in session, nobody's business or families or neighborhoods or communities are safe because they're making more laws, they're making more rules for you that take away your freedoms." And so, I mean, we really need to cut back in California. We're killing ourselves. We are a cancer to ourselves.
Well, with all sincerity, the city of Reading is lucky to have you, genuinely. Well, we will end with the last question here, which I think is probably appropriate as both a mayor and a mother balancing responsibilities. You have people like me that block a 30-minute podcast, which I believe started as a 20-minute podcast, and then are just enthralled with your knowledge and your heart and elongate that. What's one nugget or one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that perhaps feels overwhelmed by their profession or their chair or the mantle that they've been handed to adequately respond to all the responsibilities simultaneously?
I think one of the reasons why I'm able to do as much as I do is because I don't take on the thing that isn't mine. I actually don't think I solve all the issues. I think the Lord invites me into certain things and I partner, and when there isn't a grace for it, I let it go. And that could be on the same task. So there have been tasks that I'm driven to discover, but I may go hard 40, 60, 80 hours a week in discovery and learning and asking questions and meeting and do all this kind of stuff. And then I may sit for 2 months with what do I do about it? Because I'm okay, I found this out. Okay, I understand this now, but what do you want to do with it? Like, what do we do with it? And then I will sit with it for a while, and because truth echoes, and I am about the redeeming of things, not just exposure to punish, not just to bring justice. And so I have to sometimes sit with that. And so when the grace lifts for that pursuit, I stop, and I'm like, okay, the Lord's doing something I don't know yet what to do with this, but I need to sit on it. I need to now with that knowledge, observe what's going on, and maybe that's for me to understand something different. Maybe it's to go do something different. I'm not exactly sure, so I'm praying into bring those people for this next phase. So it doesn't become overwhelming to me, um, because I don't pick up the things that aren't mine. I do the things I have the grace for. Now, I'm an athlete. So I'm like in the zone. And, if the kids are not like if I'm watching something on TV, I can't even hear anybody, and I'm like on something and they'll be like, "Can you hear us?" and like tap tap, and it's like my kids were like, somebody asked something about, like, running and, you have kids, and if you have to move, you have to do this, or you're traveling, whatever, and it's like, I will never compromise my priority of my family and my kids, like, and if it did, I'd quit. There is no job that feels as satisfying as actually knowing my children, knowing my husband, and loving them well. So, like, nothing's ever gonna take a back seat to that. Now, will I get in the zone on something and I'm, like, going hard after that and, like, I don't eat and they're like, "Hey, remember us?" Totally, but those are always temporary. Um, so I I think sometimes we get overwhelmed with the things that aren't ours, which is just an issue of, like, it's work, it's not value. I get paid $600 a month to be so I we take turns being the mayor. So I'm the past mayor. So I'm on the city council right now, but you're the mayor, you're the city council, you $600 a month. This is not for profit. I work minimally 40 hours a week at on the city council. Sometimes much, much more, sometimes double, triple that. If 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 the need cause like there's a cause for that, I will do that because it's that important to me to represent my people well. And I have to trust that the Lord, that it'll all work out. So, yeah, I would say if you're overwhelmed by it, it's likely you've taken a path or you've gone down the wrong part of that river. Stay in the river. But like get on the bus, but like don't sit in the front. Maybe go sit in the back and like take a nap. And get a vision. Get a vision in the role that you're supposed to be having, because I'm not here to save the city. That is not my job. I'm not here to be the lead of the city. I'm really here to serve, and I don't pick up everything. As a matter of fact, even the issue with you guys, I didn't pick this up at first. It was offered to me. Can you help with this? And I just couldn't. It was not in my wheelhouse. I had other things that were more of a priority. And when we finally connected, I was like, oh, okay, I had the capacity for it. And then you focus in, you do your due diligence, you work, you get understanding, you do your research, and then it's like, oh yeah, yes, I can do this. But it took me months before I jumped on board with this plan, because I didn't have the grace for that at the time. And you just have to know that.
And that's the beauty of it. The timing is also grace, in that when it worked, it worked. In every capacity. It was just it was so fun, just the time together as well. So I feel like we could continue this conversation for hours. It's been such a joy. What I would love to do, ma'am, is do just a quick prompt and response, if that's okay. And the way this goes is I read one word, and then you give a 1 or 2 word response, just the first thing that comes to mind, just kind of giving an insight into your heart and mind. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Awesome. Freedom.
Love.
Civility.
Passion.
California.
Sunshine.
Faith.
Everything.
Family.
The ultimate.
Purpose.
Well, the first word I thought of was task. And then I started judging it. But task. That's the first word I thought. Like, you know what frame of mind I'm in these days. I need a list.
That's good. Responsibility.
Hopeful.
Legacy.
Well, when you said legacy, I thought media, but that's like just because that's a phrase. Legacy is an interesting one. I got nothing. I don't have anything. There isn't another word that comes to mind. I don't know. I feel like that's a weighty one. Yeah. Well, obviously it's open.
I feel like, if I may take advantage of that space for you, and just the amount of time that we spent together, the short amount of time, it doesn't shock me that you don't have a response to that, because it feels like you step into spaces with all of yourself, not for your own personal legacy, but to be available to what the Lord has for you. Like you said, taking the grace, taking the mantle, taking hold of it fully, and making yourself available to that. Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't. I don't have
super personal,
it's
deep
open.
response.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. No.
Well,
I'll take it.
It has been.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times I could say this, but it has been such an overwhelming pleasure. At times almost, having a tear in my eye, just the depth of your words. It's I think it's going to be really, really special for our listeners, and just so many nuggets that I didn't anticipate. So that's a wrap for today's episode of It Is Good. It's been such a privilege, ma'am, sitting down with you, Mayor Tenessa Audette. Your dedication to leading with authenticity, serving your community, taking hold of the mantle, walking in grace, is as profoundly beautiful as it is inspiring. For more on her work and her initiatives, visit TenessaAudette.com. I'll also link that below in the bio for our listeners to take a look. Tenessa, thank you for your insights. Thank you for being on the show and sharing your heart and your conviction.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
To our listeners, I hope this conversation encouraged you to engage deeply, to confront challenges head on, to pursue growth with authenticity. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Take care.